5:30 p.m. We have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Would you pray with me? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we ask you to be with us tonight as we make decisions regarding the students in our district. Help us make the right decisions, ones that will be lasting and ones that will be helpful. Lord, we just thank you for the freedom to be here, and we pray that you guide us and direct us. In your name, amen. All right, spotlights from Dr. Pollard.
Well, tonight we've got a couple of special guests, in Ann Miller and Donna Gallagher. It's not often that we do a Hornet Legends spotlight, but in the summer we transition from honoring students and teachers to honoring some of our former educators who really stood out. And we've only done about 5 or 6 of these. Folks like Danny Lorwald, Tracy and Tommy Fidel, and Benny Hansen. So it's an elite group. And I want these two to be very proud of their accomplishments because they're very well liked. But I'll start with Donna Gallagher, and Donna's here tonight. Hi, Donna. Donna started her teaching career with 1 year in Beeville and then 2 years in San Antonio. And then in 1973, she came and began her time at Gatesville Junior High School. For the next 21 years, she would teach a course which was originally entitled Occupations. That's what it was called when Calvin had it back in the day. But slowly it evolved into computer literacy. Ms. Gallagher was teaching the students of GJHS concepts on the computer that were not widely used yet because that industry was still in its infancy. We were really on the cutting edge, Donna, back when we were doing it. Donna was very well liked by students and staff. She became a fixture at the junior high before retiring in 1994. And this is my favorite part. I look at people's past evaluations to see what people wrote about. And so Greg Hines wrote, students were frequently praised and encouraged. Students responded enthusiastically and worked well throughout the period. James Bays wrote, challenging the students was the strength of the lesson. It was enjoyable for the students, very positive. And Roland Lambert wrote, works well with the students, works well with the teachers, a very good teacher. So for all these reasons, Donna, we want to name you a Hornet Legend. Donna, if you want to take a quick picture with me, and then we'll transition to Miss Miller.
One, two. One more. 1, 2. Thank y'all.
Technology on the phone.
Yep.
The last year, I was getting ready to retire, and Greg Hines comes in to do my evaluation. I said, why? I'm never coming back. And then he said, no, we have to do this. And I said, well, check off appropriate dress because my dress is on inside out. I'll be right back.
He put that in there. Well, our next legend is Ann Miller. Ann Miller started her career at Gatesville High School in 1969. She taught freshman English and survived. The next year she taught junior English. And in 1974 she taught sophomore English. She would take a few years off in the 70s and 80s for child rearing, but she came back in 1987 and worked until her retirement in 2008, teaching subjects like yearbook, intro to business, typing, microcomputers, business support, just to name a few. I think I had you for business computer information systems. In total, she taught 24 years at the high school. However, she continued to sub from 2008 to 2015. Miss Miller was another one of those teachers universally liked by staff and students. And now here comes the good part, the evaluations. Ed Husk wrote, "Thank you for taking care of your students. Thank you for keeping their spirits up even when times are hard. Students were always at the center of Miss Miller's heart. Mike Barr wrote, "It's obvious to anyone who watches her that Miss Miller loves her students. Her greatest attribute is her positive attitude." And Larry Anderson wrote, "Great climate of courtesy and great rapport between students and teacher. She used every opportunity to praise students for their work." So again, for all those reasons, Ann, you're a Hornet legend. Both of these ladies were my computer teachers.
Here.
Okay, yes, let's just take it right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You can never get me none.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Thank you.
Now you guys are welcome to stay for the next 3 hours, or you can step out whenever you like. So, but it's up to you guys. Stay as long as you like, but you're welcome to leave.
I have to say one thing.
Yes, Ann.
I'm out at the hospital at Welcome.
Yes.
It's assisted living until I can get this wonderful shoe off my foot, and then I'm going home. I couldn't believe how many people are out there caring for me that I taught. It just blows my mind. It's real wonderful because you never know what they're gonna do when they've gone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one right there. And there's one. Yeah. And he's one.
Yeah. Yep. Both of you
Thank
guys did a
you.
great job. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. We come to the time of the agenda for public comment. Is there anyone here that wants to speak about something that's not on the agenda?
Gwendy Hardcastle has signed up. Gwendy, come on up. Gwendy signed up. Her topic's going to be homeschool students participating in UIL.
I have one wonderful piece of literature to read to you. I know you just can't wait. Individuals who wish to provide public comment or testimony to the board at the designated time during a board meeting must sign up in advance of the board meeting in person. Sign up must occur prior to the start of the meeting. At meetings other than the regular board meeting, well, that's not here. Okay, a speaker will be given up to 5 minutes to address the board. If, however, the total number of speakers seeking to address the board at a meeting exceeds 3, the per speaker time limit may be reduced. In no event will a speaker be given less than 1 minute to address the board. You must increase or decrease the per speaker time limit to address the board if there are more than those. And we ask that you keep your comments not personal, just general.
Sounds good. So good evening. My name is Wendy Hardcastle, and this is our youngest son.
Asa Hardcastle.
Okay. And we're here to ask you that as a school board, if y'all would reconsider opting into the UIL equal access for homeschoolers. Because Asa, he would like to actually have the opportunity to try out and play with the varsity soccer team. So in 1994, I graduated from Baylor with a Bachelor of Science in Education with a specialization in early childhood education. And so I taught 2 years at Moody Elementary before I started having children. Then I wanted to stay home with them, so I stayed home with them. And then when our oldest son was about to start kindergarten, I thought, oh man, I love teaching and kindergarten's my area. So I started homeschooling him, and it's kind of stuck. So I actually just finished up my 21st year of homeschooling. So I don't need an award for that, you know. And so we graduated our 3 oldest, and our 3 youngest are still, I'm still teaching them. They have a few more years to go. So for us, actually homeschooling has just been the perfect fit for our family. It's just been a lifestyle that we have loved. Just getting to learn together at home and in life in general. It's just when the teachers around, you're always learning, even though like, but they are. So it's been a blessing just to be able to teach them and to have that one-on-one time with them. You know, to know their strengths, to know their weaknesses, to know where they're excelling, what they need help with. It's also nice because we get to go on family vacations and take our and when everybody else is in school, so that's been nice, and the ability to take field trips. So, so it's been really good. So Asa, one of my students, he enjoys history and he's an excellent reader, and he excels in math. Not that he would tell you that he does, but he really does. But he's also very, very athletic, and so he has participated in the city baseball and soccer until he passed the age of all of those. But then 7 years ago, when he was 9, Jeff Armstrong, who I actually awarded several months ago, started a select soccer team. And so Asa was on that team. He's been on that team the whole time. And so that actually increased his love for soccer. But then, more than that, his ability to play soccer has definitely skyrocketed. And so it's actually one of his desires to get to play high school soccer with his guys, his friends, because he's now played 7 or 8 years with them, not just seasons, but years, because they play spring and fall. So, in his desire to play with these guys, he's actually come to all their games. He's sat in the cold, some of those cold games these past 2 years, sitting up in the stands, cheering them on with these amazing seasons that his guys have had. So, for several years, our oldest children actually got to lobby at the Texas Capitol to pass, at that point it was called the Tim Tebow bill. But then in 2021, the Texas legislature passed the UIL equal access for homeschoolers, and we were so excited. And so we are asking that y'all would reconsider, revisit the opportunity for students by choosing to opt in to this equal access, and then to be able to inform the UIL by August 1st, so that Asa, and if anybody else, I know for sure Asa, so he'd be able to participate in the varsity athletics, and soccer would be for him if he makes the team. It's actually one of the things that I do appreciate about Gatesville, the school district, is the motto that you have out on your marquee when you're driving by, doing what's best for kids. And I appreciate that, and I know it's probably not just the students that attend public school here. I'm actually hoping it's for all students in Gatesville, if they're public school, private school, or homeschool. And that's actually what our desire is for our children, doing the best for our kids too. And so we ask for your consideration on this topic to opt in to the UIL equal access for homeschoolers. I know Groesbeck, Meridian, and Salado are some of the school districts in this area who did opt in this past year. And I'd love to be able to have Gatesville added to that list, so that all the students, all the children here in Gatesville, if they're public school, private school, homeschool, all have the opportunity to participate in UIL events. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Anybody else from the public? All right, public notice of intent to apply for federal programs.
Good evening. I have the exciting privilege to talk to you guys about federal grant programs tonight, and our intent, the school district's intent, to apply for these grants again this year. And this is public notice. It's required by board policy to provide public notice in multiple venues, and this is one of the venues that we provide our public notice of Gatesville ISD's intent to apply for funds through the ESSA Consolidated Grant, the Special Education Consolidated Grant, Perkins 5, Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Federal Grant Programs. And as you know, we also apply for ESSER grants and some other federal grants that aren't necessarily part of this program. But I'm going to go over those grants and talk about the entitlements, the projected budget that we'll have, how we identified our needs, and filled any questions that you may have. And so there's a presentation in the packet that I have. This is usually what happens when I speak publicly. Exits the room. I'm used to that. It's okay.
Don't take it personally.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I tried to distract everyone so they could sneak out quiet.
Was it in the?
Yeah, I think it's just a PDF in the packet. I think it was in the packet.
I don't think it was in the packet. I think all that was in the packet was the AI sheet.
My mistake. I can go over it or.
Yeah, just talk.
Okay, well, this is gonna be really exciting. So the ESSA Consolidated Grant is commonly called the Title Grant, Title I grant. And the purpose of this grant is to provide all children with significant opportunity to receive a fair and equitable and high quality education and to close the educational achievement gaps. And we actually received 3 different title grants, Title I, Title II, and Title 4A, with roughly $630,000 projected. We haven't gotten the final amounts yet, but roughly $630,000 for those 3 grants. And these grants are supplemental grants. And what that means is that you must use the funds in addition to the state required programs. We have 3 Title I campuses, primary, elementary, and intermediate. And to use these funds, they have to be in addition to what the state requires. If the state requires a 20-to-1 student to teacher ratio, we have to hire enough teachers with local funds to fulfill that, and then we can hire specialists or interventionists beyond that. But that's what the word supplemental grants means. You have to use the funds in addition to. We also apply for the ESSER grant, which was $3.8 million this year, and we've talked about that, and I'll present on that again in August. But that is a supplant grant, which means we can use those funds in replace of local funds. We will also apply for the Special Education Consolidated Grant, and that grant is roughly $520,000. And then we will also apply for the Carl Perkins, and it's changed names so many times I forget what this, the Perkins 5, Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Federal Grant. And that is about $25,000, and that is for our Career and Technical Education program. And the Special Ed grant and the CTE grant are also supplemental. They have to be in addition to local funds. We can't use them to replace local funds. In addition to those, we apply for a migrant grant, an English language acquisition grant, and a homeless grant. But those 3 grants, we join a shared service arrangement with Region 12, the service center, because they're very small grants and we couldn't do a whole lot with those funds. And so they pool money from local schools, and then they provide a specialist to provide the services. We couldn't afford to hire a specialist with the amount of money we get with those, so we just use their services for those 3 grants. The deadline to apply for these grants is September 2nd of this year. We will meet that deadline. And in the presentation, we talk about some of our data that we have to look at. So we had a meeting 1st of June with stakeholders from every campus, parents, teachers, faculty members, paraprofessionals, students were involved, and we talk about who we are as a district, what our enrollment is, what our economically disadvantaged numbers are, what our at-risk numbers are, special education numbers, and we use that information to determine our needs. And those needs that we've identified are to be able to provide teachers and students with materials, equipment, strategies to effectively support learning, to provide teachers with the training, resources, and coaching needed to effectively implement successful teaching, to provide professional development and resources to teachers so they can deliver rigorous instruction and high quality assessments, to recruit and retain highly qualified staff, and to provide students with enhanced intervention, summer school, tutorial, and after-school programs to help them catch up, overcome learning loss, and stay on track with their grade level curriculum. So all of those needs are basically about helping students close the achievement gap, close the learning gap, and to catch up with and stay on grade level. And we use all of these grants that I talked about today to support those 5 or 6 needs. I don't have the number with me. And that's a brief summary, a summary of the summary of our grants and our intent to apply for the grants and what we will do with the money. Any questions about Gatesville ISD's intent to apply from you guys or you guys? It is a public hearing.
Do you need to vote for us to publish intent?
Say that again.
To publish intent.
This is just information. I published it on the website as part of the policy that we kind of changed the policy early July maybe last year, where it's just now I give you an information item and I put it on the website. So after tonight, I'll put it on the website that we've made our intent.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Which of those are annual?
we apply for the Title I grant, the ESSER
Right.
grant, the Special Ed Consolidated grant, the Perkins CTE grant every year. We have to reapply for those every year. The one that's just a kind of a one-time deal is the ESSER grants. That came from the federal government this last year, or the last couple of years.
And that's gonna end.
It ends
Isn't it?
at the end of this, the 2023 school year is the official end, but it carries over until the end of the 24 school year. When you'd still use the
With the
funds for
money,
another
okay.
year. But we're using those funds, and part of those plans are to retain and recruit teachers and keep people employed and doing a good job in the classroom.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
The following items are on the consent agenda. If a school board member wants to pull any of them for discussion, you may do so. The minutes of the May 16th meeting, financial statements as of May 31st, bills and payroll, budget amendments, year-to-date budget amendments to fund balance, quarterly investment to fund balance as of May 34th, vital signs report, food service report, school health advisory report. Does anybody want to pull any of those? Do I hear a motion to accept them?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mary Ann. Do I have a second? Okay.
Whoever.
Alderson seconds. All for? Okay. All of the things in there are accepted. Now we'll go to information items, and we start with budget update.
Daryl, you're up.
So I forgot to add this today. I need to mention the 2.5.
Yes. Yeah.
Good evening, board.
Hello.
These are certainly challenging times that we're living in
You are correct.
on a lot of different fronts. And our budget forecast for FY23 is a very challenging one as well. So I'll give you the square facts tonight and where I really feel we stand. And these were prepared for you probably about a week ago, so that we can get them into your board packet. And I've had some more information that has come to light since this was prepared for you. Number one, maintenance and operations tax rate. It looks like it's going to decline 7/10 roughly of a penny, almost a full penny, as a result of the tax rate compression. And it would have declined another cent had we not planned on taking advantage of the extra 1 cent golden penny, they call it, which was going to pay for the raises that we put in for next year. So the taxpayers will be looking at 0.74 decrease in the M&O rate. Number two, due to the property valuation increases that we've experienced in our district, we're going to plan to reduce a half a penny on the INS rate to an even 20 cents. Number three, we of course voted in a roughly a $500,000 increase in salaries for next year, which is to be paid for out of that 1 cent, most of it. And number four, the certified property values will be announced in July. What we are basing our projections on now are what they call preliminary values. They usually don't change very much from preliminary to certified. So the budget that we're looking at tonight is going to be based on the preliminary values, which went up about 17% from a year ago. Number five, as you know, the feds are increasing the interest rates, and so the interest on our savings and investments will increase, and I'm projecting about $100,000
increase in the interest income. Number 6, the CHARS Medicaid reimbursements. Looks to be maybe 50,000 better than last year's 700,000 budget. So we're planning on budgeting about 750,000 in income from the CHARS Medicaid reimbursements. Leanne's working on that now. Thank you, Leanne. High school rental project is complete. This month there was no rental budget. As you'll notice in their financial update, because it's done, and you will see the year-to-date budget amendment, which is what, 1.9, that covered the remainder of the funds that we have spent on the high school rental. So there's no more funding to be budgeted for in the next fiscal year. And one of the biggies is number 8. State funding will decrease by up to $1 million next year as a result of local tax revenues. As the local taxes go up, they're going to reduce the revenues on their end. So we're to expect that. Number 9, the state funding will reduce $1 million roughly, and you probably see this on your vital signs report. It's usually up on the top left. There's a little chart up there that shows you the deficit that we're running. We're running about $1 million deficit. That's a result of a pretty large decrease in enrollment, and the attendance, instead of being about a 95%, which is what the budget calls for, it's running about 91% for last fiscal year. So we're talking about $1 million of the cash that we have now in the bank is really owed to TEA. We're going to owe that back, and they'll make us pay that back in monthly installments roughly during next year. Number 9. Oh, see, I keep moving around. This thing's really small. Number 10, we have significant cost increases that have come our way. One's the fuel. And that we did get a contract on the fuel, which is going to be great, because the contract's actually lower than the current prices. And who knows where those are going. And that rate will hold all the way up through December of 23. But nonetheless, we've had to increase about $100,000 our fuel costs for next year. Property and casualty, which a lot of that's based on cost of construction, like replacement cost, so that's jumping way up. And we just got the renewal from PCAT company today. We had submitted this for bids. We got one bid, and that bid was really not complete. So more than likely we're going to renew, and I'll bring this to the board next month for the renewal of our insurance, but we're probably looking at about a $70,000 increase in our insurance premiums, up to about mid 300,000s. So that insurance is getting really steep. And in fact, the deductibles are going up. So I'm going to propose in August that we assign $500,000 of the fund balance toward the deductible. So if we had a major catastrophe, the deductible is $500,000. And so we would need to be prepared out of the general fund to be able to handle that, which is outside the budget. And then number 11, one of the most important factors, of course, as you well know, affecting next year's budget, and right at this point it's still kind of a guess. You know, who knows what next year is going to hold. Enrollment, you know, plays a big factor, but so does attendance. So projecting that we start next year where we ended this year, and projecting 93% attendance rate, which is not 95, but it's also not 91, it's a little optimistic. 93, we're facing a budget shortfall of $2.5 million for next year. So this is going to be an interesting summer. This budget shortfall is based on all of the requests that we've received from all the departments across the district. It's also based, of course, on the federal funds. We've about $2 million that's paid for by federal funds, and about $800,000 is paid out of the HR budget, is paid for out of the ESSER fund. And that's only going to have like 1 year, maybe another year, but it'll go away. So that's going to be another nearly $1 million burden on us, because that will not be repeated, and we'll have to make up that shortfall eventually when those ESSER 3 funds run out. So I hate to paint a bleak picture, but it's realistic. It's where we are. These are very challenging times. We would hope that enrollment will pick back up. We hope that attendance will do better than 93%, but we must also be prepared to do something this summer to address the $2.5 million shortfall in our FY23 budget. So that's the state of affairs budget-wise for FY23. I just dropped this on here a while ago. He turned white as a sheet, as did I.
Well, we were anticipating more of a $1.5 million decrease, but to be realistic and to be as cautious as possible, it's best to just go ahead and say it's going to be 2.5. And so what will happen is they'd already slashed the budget preliminarily I had to 1.5, and I'll go back and slash it 2.5. But we will have a balanced budget, and they'll just have to be frugal with their spending. The main thing is that the employees will be getting their salaries. They've gotten a raise. As long as you've got the people, you're in good shape. But all those extra things may start going by the wayside. You know, there may be no more conferences. There'll be no more hotels. There'll be no more eating. There'll be no more all those sorts of things. But we'll make it work. And hopefully, like Darryl said, eventually the enrollment and attendance, it'll get back up. But we've got to be prepared for this. And as our financial systems unravel nationally, you can see it now at the local level too. You see how inflation has these 1-2 punches with all these different things, and so you'd be naive to think that there's not going to be some pretty bad catastrophic things happen nationally.
So we'll come back to the board in August for your
Yeah.
budget workshop.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of work to do between now and then. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Where do we stand with our teachers for next year, having personnel all in place?
We're in great shape. We only have 2 professional teaching positions that are still open.
Okay.
It's a 5th grade reading and a junior high special ed.
I was asked that today, and man, we had like 60 vacancies. I said,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You know, that's been a real blessing. And we're in good shape on paraprofessionals. I think we're just about all hired on parapros. And so really, we're in great shape in that respect. So as long as you've got the people, you can have school. And we've got beautiful buildings. Now if we just fill up the buses with gas, we'll be all right.
I said if you build it, we'll come. So let's hope the students will come.
Rate, too.
Yeah.
So you're telling us you feel confident that with your budget microscope this summer, you can get us to the point where we need to be?
Yeah.
Even there may be some squealing
Oh, yeah.
and crying in some places.
Be prepared for department managers to come to you and say, my God, I don't have, be prepared for that.
Okay. Well, we just appreciate the fact that you're willing to, just
Well, you can't just,
say, we're not going to try to have a deficit.
it's like your own personal finances. You can't just keep spending. Now, some people do. We'll just keep spending till oblivion and we'll rack up so much debt and credit card debt, but we can't do that. That's not how I run my own household. It's not how Darryl runs his, and so you don't run the school that way.
Well, the individuals at the home are having the same problems everybody's going to have,
Yeah.
so they understand it.
Tough times.
Any other questions? Good questions.
Do a great job.
Thank you. Well, it's just tough times. It's not easy, but we'll make it by the grace of God. And like I say, if you build it, they'll come. We got a great district,
Yeah.
and we just hope that they'll come. The enrollment will go up, attendance will get better, and things are going to look much rosier in the future. God can do it. He can do it. So we got to trust in God that GISD, which is a great little school district, will be okay in the end. Okay? But we've got some
Thank you so
homework to do
much.
between now and your budget workshop in August, believe me.
Daryl always tries to leave on a high note.
All right, now we're gonna find out when school starts and ends.
Yeah, this is an easy one. So going down the list of information items, campus daily start and end time. We always do this during the summer. So basically, the only one we need to tweak is primary, because when we had those ice days, we didn't have quite enough time built in, so we had to add or lengthen their day. And so by lengthening the primary school day by just 5 minutes to match it with elementary, they'll be good. They'll have 3 days worth of cushion. And so we'll have that built in. But you can see there what's listed from primary through high school, and then some of the special programs, just to kind of FYI. But do y'all have any questions about any of those starter end times?
Looks good.
All very consistent with what we've had, so. All right. Y'all good?
Security and crisis planning.
So, in the wake of the Uvalde tragedy, you know, especially right after it happened, we had a lot of parents and community members very worried about that happening here. And they wanted to have somewhat of a description of, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing to prepare for something like that here? And so some of the main critical points that we have pointed out from Uvalde to kind of reassure the parents, and I'm probably going to make a Facebook video tomorrow that I put out occasionally just to let the parents know. But we'll just kind of go by these one by one quickly. But number one, the protocol, if there is an active shooter, our SROs know to go immediately. They don't have to wait for me or Scott or Yates or anyone to give them the go-ahead. You go towards the shots fired, no questions asked. And so they know that. The other thing is that they have tactical training. Our newest one, Bobby Cole, still needs to go through it, but the other 4 haven't. That was another thing. They know how to react in this. I think there's sometimes a perception that, are they like a mall cop? No, these are real police officers. They've had a long tenured career in DPS and police, different things like that. The other thing is, are they going to be out-weaponed? And so we've got the M4 assault rifles, they've got special shotguns, and we're going to buy a couple more. So that way they each have one, so they can go toe-to-toe with an assault rifle, because that's usually the killer's weapon of choice. The other one, simple enough as it is, they already have a master key. You know, the Uvalde guys had this big ring of keys, and they're trying to get in the door, and they can't even get in. Our guys have a master key already. The other thing is, we're going to buy them some breaching equipment just to be on the safe side. So if the bad guy blockades the door, they can get in that way too. Our guys know to circulate playgrounds, everywhere where students are at. The expectation that teachers lock their classroom door, we've already put that out before, but I still sometimes will occasionally walk down a hallway and see a door open or jiggle a thing and I can get in. And so now that these school shootings are ramping up again, that's going to be a non-negotiable. Like, I don't want to be harsh about it, but you're going to get written up if you don't do it. And so I hate to put it that way. I don't like how in the Uvalde tragedy they've tried to find a scapegoat. You know, there was one bad guy in that situation. Now, albeit some of those other folks could have done some things a lot differently. But at the same time, you know, these teachers already have to go through so much already, but locking your door should be something that's easy enough. It's the same thing with, don't ever put a pebble or a rock and prop the door open. Don't do that. And so we'll make sure that they know to do that, and we'll check that often. Trying to add more protective film on the windows at some of the campuses, DAP High School and some of the other areas, just to make it harder. You can't see in, but we can see out. We do lots of active shooter drills. We'll keep doing that. The SROs have their radios at all times. That was another thing. The Uvalde chief didn't bring his radio with him. And that was a huge tactical error. Our folks have those radios with them. We already have things in the dress code like no trench coats. Another thing that Ms. Barrows would have added is no large duffel bags. Sometimes they take that at the athletics, which is fine, but don't bring it in the main building. We toyed with the idea of clear backpacks for a minute, but we decided that might be too much. And so typically you're not going to be able to get in an assault rifle in a normal backpack anyway. IDs. Students of all ages will have an ID they need to keep on them. And we want to keep, here's another one that will create some discontent with the parents. But after having decided we were going to open the lunchroom back up after the pandemic, we've decided after the Uvalde tragedy we don't want to do that. You know, that killing happened after they'd had a big award ceremony. There was lots of foot traffic in and out, doors open, propped, and then sure enough, there he comes. And so we think it's better that if you want to eat lunch with your kid, come check them out and take them to Ranchers. You can do that all day long, but you're not going to come into school. And so they'll just have to be okay with that. And I think most reasonable parents will be. If there is a mass shooting at a campus, we'll have a reunification site off campus. We've got a couple of locations, but we're not going to divulge publicly where those are because we don't want the bad guys to know. But we've worked it out with several other community members of where we would go to reunify. And then lastly, in the event of a mass shooting, we'll talk about this here in a minute, but who's in charge? It'll be Gary Stiles. And so there's always, in the Uvalde, it's like, well, who's in charge? It's Gary Stiles. And so, Mary Ann, you look like you've got a question.
At our conference last week, I talked to one of the board members from Uvalde, and he said that they have lots of unanswered questions as far as their process, you know, who did what, who, you know, those numbered items. That's a really good list of things, but I know that as we go through and hear of their schools and other events that unfortunately happen, that you can adapt and and work on that and make it appropriate for us.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, you learn something new after each mass killing. Calvin?
I like the fact that, because to me, the easiest assets I worry about those kids on the playground. The primary, the elementary, is there not anything about putting up a fence, a larger fence around those?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Because they can easily get, I mean, just, I don't know, it bothers me.
Yeah. The good thing is we do have a fence around all of our playgrounds, but you know, how easy would it be to scale? You know, the other thing is we want the SRO at all places at all times. Well, there's just one per campus. You know, and you're like, well, I want them on the playground, I want them in the hallway, I want the entrance. Well, it's one man or one woman.
You're talking about maybe like a fence like the baseball field around the playgrounds?
Like a higher fence.
Yes, a higher fence around the playground.
Yeah.
So that you can't see the kids and they can't see out.
I'm not so sure if you no matter whether you can see the kids or not.
Yeah, just more difficult to scale.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else about this list?
Okay, that's on the proactive side. Do we have anything on the preventive side? Mental health, ways that we're going to work with kids who
well, the one
show
thing,
signs of being in need of.
One thing that I think Gatesville's ahead of the curve on is that we have our social workers. You know, so many districts balked at having social workers or even school resource officers. And, you know, when we started adding those, that came with a lot of apprehension and trepidation and, oh, that costs money. And, oh, well, there's some things that you've got to spend money on. And I feel like that the social workers and policemen are part of those things. And so...
I think back on the reporting from all of the violence that's happened, and in nearly every situation, there were all kinds of signs. And maybe a counselor knew about one, or maybe a social worker knew about one. So maybe this network that we've fixed, we can all share, and like you talked about last month.
Yeah, the thing that Dr. Harper created where if you have an incident where you report to CPS and it goes into our database and then we can discuss it more, and so everybody knows what's happening with someone who's either being abused or neglected, who oftentimes those students might turn towards something violent.
And oftentimes it's the students who let you know that they've heard all this stuff. So we need to encourage them to report and a place to report.
Yeah. And oftentimes they reveal their hand on social media. They'll tell something that is definitely a warning sign. Anything else about those points?
You know, we were at dinner. Ezekiel brought up a good point. I don't know if we could. He talked about in their school is so big, but he was in Atlanta, about having metal detectors. it might be cost, but something worth paying for. I can't say you might need it in the elementary or intermediate, but high school. You can say that's how people even get vapes in there. But that's just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's a balancing act between how prison-like do you want it versus how much like a school do you want it. You know, and I don't know if that would be something we could funnel all the kids through, or if logistically that would be very difficult. Marie and I have talked about that before, but you know, we borrow the metal detecting device from the sheriff's office before each graduation, and the graduates go through it. But getting 850 kids through it would be difficult. We might have to do multiple ones. I don't know. So
He also said that there are only 2 doors that you could access to that school. Our high school probably has 30.
37.
37.
Yes, sir.
So that's, boy, that'd be tough.
But Marie has narrowed that when they come in and out, though, to 2. So she's doing everything they can to. So I'm gonna write down high fence and metal detectors as more ideas. Okay. The next item is related to it if y'all are ready for it. So, going back to the parents and community members wanting to do something. We want to do something. And so, some other communities have a program called Dads on Duty. And that's a catchy title. But I would say that if you're a grandma or mom, you could also be on it. But predominantly we're calling out to the men who would like to do this. We're not wanting you to, this is not come up here with your gun. This is come up here, get a vest, we'll vet you, make sure that your criminal history is clear. Work with our police officers and administration, but they'd be an extra set of eyes and hands to walk the campuses, check doors. You know, you might be able to allocate 2 hours every Monday. Well, Joe may come up here 2 hours every Monday and walk the outside, check doors, walk the inside, check doors. If he finds one that's unlocked, tells a staff member, just simple things like that. And so it would be a good way. We've had people reach out to us and say, hey, we really want to come up there for a few hours a day and once a week to try to help. And so if we have people, especially former or current law enforcement, that want to volunteer, military, we reached out, I think it was Yancey, to our Adopt a School and said, hey, Adopt a School, would you like to come up here and do some of this? They said, we don't do security. And so that was kind of unfortunate. We're really hoping that those men and women in the military would help us with that, but they say our mission is different. We're not going to start getting in the business of security. But we thought that that would be a good program for people that really want to be up there and have eyes on the kids. They can walk around the playground, you know, and again, report back to SRO or administrator and just make sure things, if they see somebody suspicious, say something, you know, hopefully maybe outfit them with a radio. But the staff would know, okay, we know Mr. Smith, he's a dad, he's got a badge, he's part of that program with the vest. But sometimes they might be able to see somebody that we don't see approaching the school.
Were you talking about a vest just that is
To distinguish
aware?
them from,
Okay.
you know, so having, like we give our youth ministers one of these. So that way they know, the staff knows, okay, he's been cleared through criminal history, that's where let's don't harass him. So we'd want the same thing for these gentlemen or women to have as well.
Well, okay. Dad's on Duty is a catchy title.
Yeah.
But it might be more appealing to women
Yeah.
if it isn't dads
Yeah.
on duty, although a lot of women are dads too.
Yeah. Monitoring moms.
Or how about friends on duty? Or
Parents on patrol.
Parents
Yeah,
are.
that's it. I like it.
But then what about if
Oh,
you're a
she's-
grandparent? I mean,
You're
then
still a
you've
parent.
elevated
That's
that.
parent, grandparent.
What's that?
Guardians on guard.
Guardians of God.
Guardian
God.
angels.
Guardians of guard out here.
So what do y'all want the name to be? I could care less what the name is.
Well,
What do y'all want?
I like Guardians on guard. That gets.
I'm good
on
with either
guard
one.
or on duty? It'd spell out God if it was.
Hold the
Guardians
ones
on
them up
duty.
later.
Guardians on duty, God. It sounds cult-like, I like it.
Everything flowing through is
If
not
does
appropriate
Friends
for
not
this.
work?
What?
Friends on
Is
duty.
Friends, does that not sound more as a,
Furious.
What was your
As-
first one, Marianne?
a Friends on duty?
Friends on duty. It's all good with us.
Mm.
The main thing is, can we get some people to come out here and actually do it?
Yeah.
Charles?
Something I thought of that is a really a bad problem that we need to educate the kids on
Mhm.
is that you have somebody outside the door wanting in,
Mhm.
knock, 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 and the kid will go down there and open the door. We've got to preach to them, you cannot do that. It was one of our conference deals, this lady was talking about, she was at a school and knocking on the door trying to get in, and said, there's a kid inside the door, and he gave her a double barrel shot. And she reported it, and they said, go get that kid. She said, no, you don't go get that kid. He was doing what he was supposed to do, you know.
Yeah.
If, are our campus security people tied into the 911 security system?
They have dispatching. So in addition to their handheld school radio or little walkie-talkie, they've got their
Okay.
police dispatching. So, and we'll talk about that more here in a minute, dude. One final thing that we learned at our conference that I would add to this part, that we're going to offer a program called Meals with Shields. And even though we're shutting the cafeteria down to parents, if you're an active law enforcement agent, sheriff, police, DPS, if you come in with badge and gun on hip, you can come eat free in the cafeteria with the kids. And so that way you've got more law enforcement in there. And so that's another part of that proactive thing.
You're talking about other than correctional officers?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now I would want police, sheriff, or DPS.
Okay.
Or Texas Rangers if they're here. But the point would be more security, badge and gun.
Mhm.
And so we'd want them to be in their uniform. So. All right, anything else on those more proactive like programs?
All right, next we have presentation, discussion, action items.
Fuel, Daryl.
All right.
I'm kidding.
Can we get a pep talk at this?
We do have some good news here tonight.
There sure is.
And TASB, who sponsored the conference y'all went to last week, I'm sure they had a booth with their TASB fuel. Call it Energy Cooperative. So I don't know if y'all met any of those people. But they were successful in...
Got a shirt.
What's that?
I think I got a shirt from them.
They were successful in getting this fuel pool for next year. It starts June 1, so it's already started, and it goes all the way through the end of December of 2023. And so the agreement is in your board packet. So we're asking you as a board to approve this agreement, where we're committing to purchase nearly $250,000 of fuel in the same time period at a rate of 3.37 for unleaded, 3.77 for diesel. That compares to the current contract that we've been operating on this past year of $2 for unleaded and $2.15 for diesel. So that's roughly a 70–75% increase. But at least we got it locked in below the $4 mark, for the next year, year and a half. So that's good news that they were able to get this, because we don't know where these prices are going to go. But at least we have this commitment that we can buy 54,000 gallons of diesel and 13,500 gallons of unleaded at these fixed rates for the next year and a half. Any questions? So we're presenting it to you for approval, and we're just happy we got that.
Yes.
Nailed down.
Great.
Any more discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve the request for the TASB fuel allotment?
I make the motion.
Charles? Second by Calvin. Any more discussion? All in favor? All right.
Okay. Thank you
Temple
very much.
ISD Regional Day School.
Yeah. Right.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Each year we renew our contract with the Temple Regional Day School Program for the Deaf, and so that's what we're doing today. We had a great collaboration with them last year. This is for our students with auditory impairments that need more services than our district can provide. So we have one student that goes every year. She did really great last year, so we're recommending that we renew our agreement with them.
Do I hear a motion? Jimmy? Second, Calvin? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Okay, short and sweet.
Well,
You two
Leanne,
guys-
you passed your first.
On ramps.
So Shane weaseled out of the board meeting, is on vacation. So
I will
do-
tell you that I had a parent call me this week about on ramps.
Yes,
And she said her child participated in that. It was the most wonderful thing.
you know, we were a little bit, we thought it was gonna be a great program, but a little bit nervous just that the kids would be able to do well because these are UT courses, UT Austin, so they're not easy. But I think for the first time in some of our highest performing students were really challenged. I mean, these are tough classes. But they worked hard and were dedicated, and they all had good outcomes because we were afraid we were gonna have a high failure rate, and we had great success. The kids made great grades on that. And so we're gonna be offering chemistry, algebra, pre-cal, US history, English, and biology next year. The teachers got some really good on-ramps training, and I think the fear of the unknown now is behind them, and they had a great year as well. So I'd like to recommend that we approve the interlocal agreement with the University of Texas at Austin. So Gatesville High School students can take advantage of college coursework offered through the on-ramps program.
Shall we sing the Eyes of Texas? All right. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion? Okay, Ms. Lieb. A second? Now any other questions? All in favor? And it passes. What is Gear Up? I heard she also said that's another wonderful program.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to tell her what that was.
It's a grant that we got a few years ago, and it started with the cohort in 7th grade, and they're following them up the years.
Wow.
And so Sarah Coker is a full-time employee through the Gear Up grant, and she's constantly coming up with field trips. I mean, it's during the summer. She'll take kids to get different experiences, and it's been a heck of a grant.
This parent said her child was totally unsure what they wanted to do. And then they went on this field trip, and they got to fly in an airplane that did all kinds of cool stuff. She just was railing about it. And I would guess it was before I got on the board. That's cool.
Region 12 administers it.
Yeah.
Temple College dual credit.
Well, another one of our really good partners is Temple College, and they have offered that Bioscience Institute where our kids can go to the TBI and get the dual credit courses, and like Rachel Connor, our valedictorian, was getting dual associate's degree and high school diploma. And so that's a great program where they can rack up 2 years of college by the time they get out of here. And so we want you guys to, again this summer, approve for the upcoming year the interlocal agreement with Temple College. Go to the next screen here. The MOU with Temple College, so we can offer their dual credit program. GHS students go over there in the morning or afternoon to take advantage of college coursework through their TBI. So that's my recommendation.
Do I hear a motion to accept that recommendation? Calvin motions. A second.
A second.
Ms. Lieb seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that one. Minimum grade requirements in advanced courses for
This is-
UIL.
Yes, this has been around for a few years where we have tried to give a little bit of grace. This is pertaining to the no pass, no play rule. So if you're a fine arts student or any sort of extracurricular band, athletics, that if you're taking these really hard courses, you would have to make at least a 60 as opposed to a 70 to be considered passing with regard to no pass, no play. Because see, these are 5.0 GPA scale courses. These are tough. And so we felt like by having 60 as the threshold that they are trying, and we didn't want our kids involved in extracurriculars to shy away from this because, well, you know, I don't want to ever attempt one of those classes because I may not be able to get to that 70 mark. I don't really think that this has been much of an issue. Typically those kids are very high performing, but we do have that safety net there just in case if they're in a really advanced course and they were to fall to a 60, they're still okay. But if they went below a 60, then they're out. So my recommendation would be that the trustees approve the proposal that students participating in UIL maintain a minimum of 60 in all the advanced courses to be considered passing with regard to no pass, no play UIL.
Do I hear a motion for that? Okay, Cheyenne, a second, Charles. All in favor? Got it. GISD, Coryell County and Coryell County Juvenile Board.
Scott.
It's time for another MOU. This is our usual 2-year rotation or renewal of our SCGC, School Community Guidance Center, with those partners of Coryell County and the Juvenile Board. Last year we brought to you an MOU that added some language about certain truant students. We were coming off of the shutdown and also from remote learning. We had a large list of students that disappeared, that had dropped out, and so we were trying to recover them. And so that enabled us to develop the WINGS program by putting it in the MOU. That's not quite kosher with the way that truancy is normally handled. And so this MOU that's presented to you has the language struck out about certain truant students. That was put in there for the dropout recovery. All truancy will go through the JP court, Coy Latham, just to the Peace Precinct 4. And so that's the usual way that we handle truancy, and that'll be the same with our leavers and our no-shows and our dropouts. At the beginning of every school year, we have a window to recover our dropouts that are behind, that are not going to graduate with their cohort. And so that's going to be the concentration of the WINGS program, to go out and get these and recover those that are not on line to graduate with their cohort. And so what we've learned in WINGS is it's very successful, graduated 19 kids. It blew up. I mean, there's a lot of interest in it. We see the importance of alternate pathways to graduation. There's many different ways that we can help kids have a better future. And so we're trying to recover kids off the street to come in that have jobs and pay bills, but we also have something we're trying to prevent to drop out their senior year. And so we're starting to put them all in WINGS, and it starts getting blurred. There's a lot of manpower put into having committee meetings, getting people assigned to it, being able to chase them down, stay after them, hound them. You got to be here, you got to show up for attendance. And so we're trying to make it more defined. And so this way, by taking the truancy and putting it back with the JP court, and identifying WINGS as recovery, and also the WINGS, not WINGS, but the high school recovery program for potential dropouts. So you have those that we're trying to get back off the street in WINGS, and you have those that are like, I'm quitting, I'm out, I'm walking out the door, but they can still graduate with their class. We don't want them to leave. So they can have a committee meeting, we can get them assigned, we can get them credit recovery going on, which we already do through the All Learning Lab, the ALL lab at high school. And so WINGS will become the recovery, where we take them to court, to the JP, and say these are our students that are dropouts, and he can do a court order, do a remedial order, and says you have to attend WINGS just like you would a GED. But our program is much better than a GED program, so he would assign them to do the WINGS program. It'll be administered by Pam Williams, and she's going to work with them and concentrate, because she's our court-related liaison, and so she's going to work with the court and JPO. So that's still the teeth behind getting these students to come in. The teeth behind the potential dropouts is they're still able to graduate. They want to go to prom, they want to do their graduation, and so there's still that onus to get school completed and not drop out your senior year. But one of the things that we learned is having WINGS in DAP, where the DAP students can see them. DAP students didn't have changed behavior. I'll just get in the WINGS, I'll just go there. And that's not how the program works. And so we're trying to remove them from the side of DAP, so you can concentrate on DAP and getting a change in behavior, but WINGS is strictly for recovering, so that you can get your diploma and then move on down the road with a better job option and whatever that entails for you. The other thing is interest from parents. Parents were calling, can I get my kid in WINGS? I'll transfer to your school if I can get my kid in WINGS. Well, that's not the way that works either. You can't transfer in and just get in. We have to have a credit recovery. You're not on course to graduate with your class. And so there's some other sticking points that we have to have. We have to know the student, know their situation. We have to be working with that student and not just open the doors and say, come on in. I know that might help with enrollment and those other types of things, but we're trying to keep the fidelity of our program to make sure that we're covering students and we're covering, ex-students to help them get onto the road. There's separate graduation. So that wings will come in if they want it. We had quite a few that didn't want a graduation, and we had some because of the blended class or the blended program that were able to graduate with their cohort. And so some graduated, walked in May, some didn't want it. We had those that graduated in December. So we kind of want to go back to where we had that special program for the wings class so that they can come in, honor people that helped them change their lives and kind of got them on the right path like they did the last time. That was a very, very motivational for us, and it also wanted us to get that program going and expand it and make it as big as possible. But as you move forward, you learn lessons, and so that's what we're trying to do here is define what we're talking about: dropout recovery, dropout for potential for not letting them drop out, and so we're trying to make sure that we have those things identified and how they get in, and we're going to work that through the truancy courts with the JP. He'll issue a remedial order, and then he'll have review hearings. And so we'll be able to communicate with the JP. He'll have as many hearings as we need so that we can work with our dropout recovery. But we're also going to increase our truancy filings on the younger age so that, talk about what are we going to do more proactive. We have to break that cycle at a younger age. And the court is talking to Righteous Roots about parenting classes. So they're going to be able to order the parent to go to parenting classes, talk about the importance of school, getting them there. Kids have to go to Saturday school or have to work out whatever they need to work out, but the parents are now going to be taxed with also going to class as well. And so that's something that they're working on their end, and we're working on ours on our end as well. Michelle Martin is going to help concentrate on chasing down attendance and staying on top of it. We'll follow more truancy with all ages, but also tracking down the students that need to be in our wings program. There was an enormous amount of man hours that went into calling the committees together. You're getting counselors and APs and principals and teachers, getting them all in the same room, the social workers, and the caseload is just large. We had 93 DAP placements this past year. We had 10 substance abuse policy violations this past year and 28 threat assessments this past year. And so those numbers are all up. And so we're trying to make sure that we can start concentrating on those issues and still be able to work with our recovery and our other programs.
Can a DAP student who finishes that go into the wings program?
If they meet the criteria, those are things that we're going to discuss as a committee. We don't want to shut the door off and say, no, absolutely not. Every case is unique. When you talk about really doing what's best for kids, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And we have to look at different pathways for students to provide them, to propel them onto a better future. And so if that works for that student, as long as they meet all the requirements and nothing's watered down, they're all treated the same, then we're going to, we'll look at that situation. One of the things about being court ordered, though, the truancy is how we're going to get it through the JP and work behind it. The county court at law, who supports our SCGC when it comes to DAP and substance abuse policy, they handle crimes, misdemeanors. And truancy is, crime, it's against the law, but when you're talking about drugs and violence and other things, that's not the right court for it. And so they were able to say, yeah, we'll take it on for this 1 year, but then we need to find a true pathway for it. And so that's what we're doing with this MOU, is getting back to a true pathway of putting truancy where it goes and the SCGC and the behaviors where they need to go.
That could also help Daryl with his goal of 95%.
Absolutely. Well, it's about finding kids and trying to get them to come back to school. And we've got great people and great staff. They always go above and beyond the call of duty. They know these kids, talking about how can we know something. Everybody's got a little piece of the puzzle or piece of the picture. If we can get all that together, which we're working on that as well. Michelle Martin's going to be a part of that district team along with Pam and Gary Stiles, our SRO, and the social workers. And we'll be looking at that spreadsheet as well and being able to identify and then tagging in a trusting adult in that student's life or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be a legal issue, it could be anything. And just as long as the school counselor can be taking care of it, even a trusted teacher, a coach, they're going to be huge. And being able to get them connected to somebody that can become a trusted adult. Because research shows just one trusted adult can change that life. And so that's what we're going to try to do. So the recommendation is to approve the MOU as presented for another 2-year partnership with Coryell County and Coryell County Juvenile Board.
Do I hear a motion, Jimmy? Second? Mary Ann? Any further discussion? I just say job well done. This sounds like a great thing.
Well, you know, it takes a lot of people, and everybody's got the same focus. But you know, when you start mixing everybody in the same pie and you start trying to get things going, you start losing the boundaries, and then you just want to take on more kids. You want to be able to help them more out, and you've got to pump the brakes, start identifying lanes, and we're going to come up with some other ways of helping kids. Education is changing. We have to have alternative ways to get kids further down the road, and so we're going to keep looking at that. We've got a great staff that does that already, and everybody's got a mind for that one thing, doing what's best for kids. And it's not just a model, we're trying to put it in true life form. Thank y'all very much.
All in favor? Get the motion passed.
Sorry about that. Got ahead of myself. Thank y'all.
You're just very compassionate about it.
Employee dress and grooming guidelines.
Now we're getting to the important stuff.
Controversial stuff.
Forget the 2.5 million deficit or an armed madman. Let's talk about shorts. So the staff dress code, really the only exception, we've been kind of preparing our staff for this, and most of them already do this, but we wanted to articulate that unless you are a maintenance worker working out in the heat, or a coach during athletics, or a PE teacher during PE, that when you're in a traditional classroom teaching, you need to have on pants. And so we don't think that that's too much to ask, but we wanted to articulate that. And the other thing also we put in there, just as all staff should wear their school ID badge at all times. You know, and most of them will do that too, but we just want to go ahead and articulate that. And so I feel like that our staff dress code is very lenient, especially compared to most places, but maybe that's a perk to keep people here. But we did want to add that, tighten it up just a little bit with the pants issue. So my recommendation would be to adopt the employee dress and grooming guidelines as presented.
Any discussion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Mary Ann makes a motion to accept. Calvin seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Student.
So the one that people have more opinions on, obviously, is the student dress code. And so I want to throw some things out here and let you guys discuss it and think about it and tell us what you feel comfortable with as far as some of the issues that take a lot of our administrators' time, from looking to see if a young lady has a nose ring stud that's a little tiny dot right here, or maybe a single hoop. And so we'd want you to think about that. Is that something that you are acceptable with if students had a stud or a ring? Not the barb across the middle, not that thing, but just one little tiny dot here or a little ring. Really, that's one thing. The big three that I want y'all to just think about, and you tell me what you can live with. The other one is facial hair on men, talking about the students. Again, that's probably going to be a pretty small minority of boys that are older and they can actually grow something. But if it's neatly trimmed, can they have that? And then thirdly, if a girl goes to the beauty shop and gets a beautiful hairdo that costs $200 and there's a blue strand right here, you know, does that warrant telling that young lady, go home, get that out of your hair, that sort of thing? Coming off of summer, oftentimes kids will get some sort of weird hair color. I should say non-natural. Green, a red that's not a natural red. And so those are the big three that I want you to think about. Grapple with, worry. And then you tell me, what do you think is something, can you live with one of those things, two of those things, three of those things? So y'all talk about it.
What about, and I'm just, because you said girls, what about?
So it's gender neutral, so whatever the girls can do, the boys can do, and vice versa. Yes, ma'am.
I can live with all three of them.
Okay. Who can't live with something? Charles, what would you like to say off of it?
I can live with it except for the facial hair.
Okay.
I think they need to be shaved.
Okay.
I can live with all three because I just think that it takes so much time for the teachers. And I talked to some of the teachers. Some of the teachers don't care. And one of the guys told me, if the teachers can wear facial hair, why can't the guys? I mean, it's just showing their men's side. I even talked to some of the coaches, and they said at first they thought, then they saw some athletes, and they said at first, but then it doesn't bother them at all. I mean, they're,
Yeah. Cheyenne?
I think I have to separate my personal opinion
Right.
versus what I feel like is a distraction in school. And I don't feel like that would be a distraction. I think that they're so exposed to so many
What's your personal opinion?
things anyway. My personal opinion, I think that I think they need to dress for success. But some of these kids, that's attention seeking, that's not what's on top of their list, so you kind of have to reach them where they're at. So I think it's almost like what somebody up there said, that you can't cookie cutter them all. But my personal opinion, no, I mean
On all three, or one or two? Or?
Maybe just the crazy hair colors probably would be the only thing. The facial hair, as long as it's clean cut, that doesn't bother me so much. The nose ring, I think if you're gonna let the adults do it, you should let the kids do it, which that goes for the beard too. But the crazy colors, and if there was gonna be more of a distraction, it would probably be that one.
Okay.
The code in the past has always been, even when I was growing up in Gatesville, is for people not to wear things that caused such a distraction that it impacted their ability to learn and keep order in the classroom. You know, we've gone to girls having only dresses, to girls being able to wear jeans, and you know, all of that kind of thing. I think the key for me is, what do you all feel is distracting these days? There's only one principal here, unfortunately, but do you feel like these three things would be okay in terms of being distracted? If someone goes and gets their hair done and it comes out in a bright blue, does that person cause a stir in the high school, or has it just gotten to the point where they just blend in?
Dr. Pollard has spent extensive amounts of time talking to all of the principals involved in this, and the proposals are things that we all had agreed consensus-wise that we could live with these items. Just like Ms. Kaiser said, my personal opinion is different than looking at it as the whole from a public school. My opinion as a mother would be different, but we can live with all of the proposals and it's not distracting in the classroom.
Is there a way to describe facial hair as appropriate or inappropriate? Like, what would be an appropriate?
I think, so what Mr. Webb had brought up, I believe it was Mr. Webb, that Belton had transitioned to this, where they're talking about closely shaven beards. So for my 3 years at the high school, we've had very, very few people, like 2 people come to mind in 3 years that could actually grow a beard, and it was against dress code. Most of our boys are kind of straggly. They're not capable of growing a beard. What I'm thinking is that you may see a few people have like a goatee type thing, but it would be closely shaven, which you can still see the face shape of someone. You know, we even talked about that with staff members. You know, a male that had a beard, if it was closely shaven, it just looks more well cut, professional. And so that was kind of the terminology we considered with male students.
Did you all get kids' input?
Yes, they are very open with their input. And it doesn't make everyone happy, but these are things as kind of a Peace Branch offering, as far as we could live with this, and it gives the kids a little bit more self-expression. You know, from my background, both military and law enforcement, in uniform, you didn't have people in beards. and you talked about the transition over the past of seeing, you know, women now wear jeans to school and things like that. It's the same way with our uniformed personnel. You know, right now, active duty military and police officers, they have closely shaven beards. And that's hard for me because it's different. But when you have even those strict conservative jobs like that, modeling this behavior, I feel it's kind of puts us a little bit more on an even playing field as long as we regulate it.
That's what I needed to hear.
My thought is, and we've kind of touched on it, like Cheyenne's personal, we as a board are elected by the people of the community. What is the community going to say? Now then, they can wear earrings or studs or have a beard.
Depends upon the person.
Well, you're not going to ever make
No.
everybody
You're never
happy.
gonna
Well, you're gonna have some grumble and some not.
Well, you're right, but are we throwing this out and we're going to create a backlash coming from the community?
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't guarantee you anything.
I understand that.
So I think, I mean, I don't know, the way I look at it is somebody with a purple streak, because I told you that was the one thing that I thought, if there was anything. Is that really gonna cause, I'm gonna look at my personal kids or your kids, is that really gonna cause my kid to not be able to learn? No. That purple streak in that kid's hair will not distract my child from learning or any other kid. Now, there's some distractions I can think of that would.
That's kind of
Behavior and different
a
things like
streak,
that.
you know, but
Yeah.
the whole head is purple.
Well, but I
You
still
know,
think that
it's
that's not
different,
gonna,
yeah.
like, there's so many, you know, like the cell phone policy, taking up this, that's a distraction. Yes, that's gonna keep our kids from learning,
Well, the
but.
modesty rules,
Yes.
modesty and dress.
Yes, a short skirt,
Yeah.
that's gonna distract the
Yeah.
whole classroom of boys. So I think that would be really smart to do that. But this other stuff, I'm like, yeah.
Jimmy?
I just don't know why we have one standard for our teachers and a different standard for our students. If a teacher can grow a beard, why can't a kid in high school that can grow a beard grow a beard?
That's what I
If
agree.
if a kid wants to have his hair purple, let's have all our teachers get their hair purple. You know, I just think we need to be mentors, role models, teachers. They need to set a professional example that is conducive to a learning environment.
Teachers are allowed to have hair color, like pink
I
or
don't think it's like
purple.
really
I was being sarcastic.
But the women can have a nose ring. We okayed that last year, and I told y'all that. I said, oh, here we go, because now the girls are gonna want them. So I do
Yes.
think that you do set the example. They are the
Absolutely.
example.
Yes.
But can the faculty wear bright hair color?
We don't have any faculty that has, I don't know for sure what the policy
But if they
says,
did,
but-
nobody would really care.
Yeah, I think we've addressed that in the past.
I do remember an incident.
In fact, years ago, I think there was a teacher that came to a board meeting to complain that she had gotten blue hair or something, and it was addressed. Yeah.
I'm aware of a
Teachers
conversation
have
that a senior boy had with a teacher here about 2 years ago. And that kid come to school and had a scraggly beard. It wasn't neat, it was clean, but it wasn't really much.
Yeah.
And the teacher happened to have a beard. And the teacher got on the kid and said, hey, you don't have any facial hair. And, well, you got it. Well, when you get a master's degree, you can grow one. That's kind of offensive to me. So I just want us to be consistent. I mean, if we're all gonna do it, let's all do it, but I think we're opening the door for, I mean, for example, I'm reading this, beards and mustaches must be neat, clean, and closely trimmed. Let's get a piece of paper and all 7 of us write down the definition of neat.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think we can agree on closely trimmed and clean, but neat to a teenage boy is a little different than neat to most of us sitting here. I mean, I guess it sounds like I'm nitpicking. I just want us to be consistent. And I think it's important that we all agree, because Charles is right. I think that I've already got, I mean, I'm sure everyone's got comment. Well, look at them kids down there. I mean, what's that mean? You know, I think they're doing pretty darn good myself.
Well, the kind of the impetus behind it is that we get more and more parents each year challenging it. legally and winning. That, you know, in Texas, we want to be fiercely independent, so long as you look like me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like we'll have some students claim a religious exemption to get out of it. Right. I would rather them not go that far to circumvent the rules or to, you know, different things like that. But it is a difficult balancing act between having them look good and upstanding and then also giving them some freedom to where it's not taking all of our administrators' time from checking a door to see if it's locked or not, because we're trying to see if there's a tiny little speck right here. And as you can tell by looking at me, my hair has been like this for 42 years. It's never been more than about an inch long. I'm not very exciting when it comes. I have no tattoos. I've never colored my hair purple. I don't intend for any of my sons or daughters to do that. But it doesn't really bother me though either. To each his own, whatever they want to do.
I think I'm sorry.
What was so funny if you think about back in the 70s, where these African Americans had these hairs this long, could that have been distraction? I'm just,
Hair has been an issue ever since the 60s. It hasn't stopped.
Well, and you can claim like if you're Native American, you can wear it as long as you want.
So you said that a team of administrators put this together. I mean, okay, well that's where I lay the pencil down anyway, because I respect y'all and your standards, administration, all of our principals. Y'all have great taste. You know what is best for the kids. You're not trying to let all hell break loose with the looks. You're just trying to set a standard. So I mean, I think it's a go for me.
I'd like to make one more comment, and I don't know that I said this, but I will tell you at graduation, I was thoroughly impressed the way the kids came across the stage. They shook our hands, they looked us in the eye and said thank you, and there was only about 2 out of the whole group is what I would call kind of out there. But rather than that, they were well dressed, well mannered, and well behaved.
Amazing.
I was very impressed.
I've never seen such good behavior. I don't know what y'all did to them.
Oh, sure.
Sure. So I guess why are we, if it's, and I agree with you, I was impressed too, and I think we've got a great looking group of kids. I mean, so what brought us to this discussion? Has it been a legal challenge by someone, or we just...
All over the state, it's been a
Yeah,
legal challenge.
well, like for instance, you can't say that a boy can't wear earrings, which we currently do. We would lose that legally in a heartbeat, per our lawyer.
So we're trying to...
We're trying
to
yeah.
get with the program.
Well, I have a cousin that's going to be coming to the 7th grade, and I know he has earrings already, and I just know he's going to be a challenge for, because I know his mother. I could just tell that she's going to be at the junior high. And then I have who I have with me, and he already told me his dad's a lawyer. I'm like, whatever.
And I'm not so much concerned about, that as I am just freeing up the administrator's time to worry about what's important. And also, there's going to be some things where we keep talking about higher fences and metal detectors, and I don't want the feeling of public school to be like this ominous, where your hair's an inch over your collar, son. That's not what I want. I think that we've gone past that.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. So what I'm hearing, we're not having a problem.
No.
So we're taking action to prevent what may be a problem from one kid at some point in the future.
Well, I think the administrators are saying that they've been spending a lot of time chasing kids up and down the hall with a razor blade, or
Oh, is that true? Okay.
Yes, sir. I mean, we don't have any, I wouldn't say it's a significant issue, what we're talking about right now, but we spend a significant amount of time in the hallways reminding, correcting, doing things like that. And these things are things we identified that we felt were not a distraction to the learning. They were not sexually inappropriate, or, those barriers when you talk about keeping kids safe and what you're exposed to. we felt like we could live with these, and these are very common things that we're having to address. Not significant, but common.
Then let's do it.
What I wanted you guys to be prepared for is when your cronies come up to you in Dairy Queen and say, what did you do? How on earth could you allow them to wear a beard and hair, and what are you thinking? So are you going to be able to stand your ground and explain that?
The hair is ACLU.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt, you know.
Yeah.
But, and you're talking about a beard, and we also what made mention, you're only talking about a very small percent that's even capable, juniors and seniors primarily. And it won't be just a whole lot of those.
Well, I think all we have to say is what we've said 3 or 4 times. Administrators have other things to think about than getting that little nose ring out of that girl's nose.
So what I'll recommend to you guys is to basically give the administration the leeway to articulate and craft some wording that will come to you guys in the form of handbooks and code of conduct later in the summer. But you guys are basically giving us the permission to explore those 3 items that we've articulated as presented.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion.
Mary Ann Lee. Second? Okay. Calvin? All for? Anyone opposed? Okay.
Y'all are gonna catch grief over that? Just teasing.
Well, we gave you all the leeway though.
Yeah.
We gave you the leeway and then you threatened us.
But on the hair, your answer is, we don't have a choice because of ACLU.
I mean,
And
a
what
student
boys can do, so can girls.
in a neighboring district, there was a case that went to the national level. Global attention. We got bigger fish to fry, namely a
That's right.
You're right there.
huge deficit, armed intruders. And, all right.
Okay, catastrophic leave update.
So we periodically ask to update this policy. This year, we're proposing language to include some things that happened that we always are evolving after things happen. So we want to make sure that a house fire is included. So if your main dwelling is destroyed, that would qualify. Also, if you have a mental health issue, that would qualify. But we wanted to cap depression, anxiety types to 2 weeks, just because we're afraid that that could possibly exhaust the system. So we want to grant some, we're validating and acknowledging it's a real issue, but we have to be careful how much we give you on catastrophic leave because you could drain it. And so that would be capped at 10 days. So my recommendation is to the catastrophic leave policy be approved as presented. So we would use those updates.
Do I hear a motion? Okay, Cheyenne, do I hear a second? Calvin? Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. DEC local.
This is just the aftermath of, you guys remember, approved 5 local days for the employees going forward. So DEC local needs to be updated as well. And so we want to make sure that that accurately reflects what you guys voted on a few months ago, that they can get 5 local days per year. They're cumulative, which means they can accumulate from year to year. And so I recommend we approve the updates to policy DEC local as presented.
So they have, now you have 5 state.
So you get 5 state,
and
you
we
get
got
5 local.
So they
We've
get
already
10,
approved that.
They get 10 a year?
We approved that a few months ago.
Okay.
And then this is just in the actual policy. As we go through all the nitpicky paperwork, we got to make sure that's consistent throughout all the policy.
Do I hear a motion? All right, Mary Ann, do I hear a second?
Can I ask
Okay.
a question though?
Yes.
If it gets to the point where an employee is abusing his accumulated days, is there some way you can regulate that?
So you can use 5 discretionary days per semester, I believe, is the on that. But you can, if you are not using all of them, you can bank them. Now, if you leave the district, you don't get to take the local with you, just your state.
You mean per year, don't you?
But if you have somebody coming up, say toward the end of their career, and they got all these days,
Oh,
school 1 or 2 days
gotcha.
and I'm out the
Yeah.
others, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we
It's
work with
amazing.
people. We've not had anyone drastically abuse that recently, to my knowledge. You know, I know people do try to use them up to some extent because you've got 1 million of them saved and you worked every day when you were sick and tired and you never used them, and then you try to use some at the end of your career. We try to work with people on that to where it's not a gross negligence to the students. I've really not had anybody recently do that though.
We don't pay for days not used.
I don't believe so.
All right, Mary Ann has made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll say it.
Okay, Charles? Any more questions? All in favor? Okay. School Police Department.
So at the February board meeting, we got your permission to explore this idea, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. And since that time, I've been working, and our team's been working very hard on this. So there's a 9-step process. And so we've been working with TCOLE, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, to get the application together. I've got this big binder in my office that I've been working on. We've been printing policies on evidence handling, to eyewitness identification, all these very tedious things to create your own department. And so we've got a needs assessment, we've done the cost breakdown. The city of Gatesville gave us an anticipated bill of about $304,000 for the coming year for our 5 SROs. We felt like that we could match or beat that number by creating our own police department. The impetus behind creating the police department is not some big, huge cost savings. That's never been the issue, and you're not going to have a big, huge cost savings. But what you get is greater control, and they're less distracted by trying to serve 2 different employers. Now, technically, they're the city's employees, but they spend 80% of their time with us. But they're constantly getting pulled. Like they've got to go back to the department to do that, like they're all at the police department now. And so after the Uvalde shooting, we were able to get Gary back to just watch our sports camps and things like that. But we'd love to have the guys here all the time. So we've been working on an administrative structure. The police chief would answer to me. Liability insurance, our officers are covered up to $1 million, but we also got them bonded at Ward's Insurance. So what we need from you guys is a school board resolution authorizing this, and then we'll get the minutes from Tara, and that will be step 9 of the packet, and we'll have to send this big thing off and a check for $1,000, the application fee, and we've been working with Captain Gary Cannella. He's the one that will approve it, and he's been helping us along the way. And so we feel good about what's coming along. We are constructing the police headquarters at the high school in what was the ISS room. It's the first room on the left in the 96 hallways you come out of the office. And so it's got an evidence room. Tubby built the walls. We're getting it taped and floated this week. There'll be a room where the 2 safes are for their guns and also evidence collection. And then they have the bigger outer area. So that's all per what TCOLE would like to see in your room. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to have our own police force. At first, I wasn't sold on that, and we've had a great relationship with the city, but I just feel like that with the increasing violence, the need to have them here and not distracted, we need to really get them here. And so in talking with the 5 officers, they are seemingly very much on board. And like I said, if some of those attachments there, like I'm going to send a letter to the city tomorrow, if you guys approve, telling city manager and Chief Golke, who I've been talking to at length, that this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, to tell them that we're officially trying to break. Now it has to be approved. It has to be approved. We're shooting for August 1st. As being the kind of the split date. And again, the needs just go back to the violence, and the growing crime in the community, and we really would like to have them here all the time. So what questions or comments do y'all have about any of this?
I just have a comment. I've said it all along. The school should have. I just felt like that it was better for the police department because they're going to have to answer to you. You don't have to worry about going to this person, that they can come answer to you or to these officers instead of worrying about going out there. And now with all these stuff that's happening at the school, they can do their own investigation.
Yeah.
I love it.
We've been working diligently on every little thing from ordering their badges to the outfits that they'll wear to guns and handcuffs, and a lot of that stuff they already own. Like their weapon, their sidearm, their handcuffs, they own that personally anyway that they're bringing with them. So a lot of the startup costs will get passed, and then hopefully maybe next year it will be a cost savings. I'll go ahead and make the recommendation. I'm going to add one thing, Terry. So I recommend that the board adopt the resolution to create a Justy Police Department and allow administration to submit that application to TCOL, with Gary Stiles then being named the Chief of Police and Damian White being named Sergeant. So he'd be second in command. I'd like to go ahead and get that structure in there. So that's my recommendation.
I'll make a motion.
Jimmy beat you, but you can second it. Okay, the motion was made by Jimmy, seconded by Calvin. Any further discussion? All four? And it carries. Okay. Dispatch.
So one of the things that we need is a dispatching service. So again, that's the traffic on that, you know, from law enforcement headquarters where you hear that like on over the radio possibly. So I had a meeting with Sheriff Scott Williams, and he has provided this service to Jonesboro when they created their police department. He graciously agreed. He said we will do that free of charge for you. And so the MOU tonight, he knows that I'm presenting, and we've had all of these documents have been reviewed by our lawyer. And so as I write a chapter, they review it and they approve it. And so all of this is very kosher. And so tonight would be the MOU with the Sheriff's Office for dispatching services. So I would recommend that you approve that MOU.
Okay, and so that means that we would be going through downtown.
Through Scott's Sheriff's Office dispatch.
If I got a 911 call about something at the school, it would come to.
Mm-hmm. It would go through their system.
Do I hear a motion to accept?
I make the motion.
Cheyenne makes the motion and Charlie seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, and now we'll go to executive session.
I will add one last thing about that is that, you know, the one missing piece of the puzzle are police cruisers. And the sheriff said that at times they get vehicles that are out of service, out of date, and that they would be willing to sell those at a price that's very reasonable. You know, sometimes for like $1. And so we'll just kind of wait for them to have vehicles that become to that, you know, capacity, and we'll sure pick them up.
So we'll get a Hornet on the door?
Yeah, 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 if we have any money.
It's 7:13. We will now retire into executive session.